Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and football season is right around the corner, so you can visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now at FanDuel.com or through the FanDuel app. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again for a Locked On Texas Tech special edition. It's the Locked On Texas Tech Matador Mob Mailbag, and it runneth over once again with a variety of subjects to discuss, including some I didn't necessarily see coming, some we may have anticipated, including questions about Micah Hudson and a hush-hush approach to his fall camp. There's also some questions about the QB room at large. We've talked a lot about Baron Morton, but how about thoughts on Will Hammond or the future beyond number 2? And we'll kick off our conversation today, Chris, talking about some news coming across here more recently relating to the Big 12 Conference and some policing and or enforcement of objects thrown onto the field. So we'll set the table for this one. And of course, of great concern to many great Red Raiders in the 806, because we have a routine and or tradition of getting rid of some flour tortillas on a college football Saturday in a certain exuberant fashion. So there was quite a few of our mobsters who were texting in about this. We had Jet, we had Randy, we had Andrew, we had Lisa and Rachel. We also had Brent, we had Jarrett, we had Drew, we had Coleman, we had Glenn and Brandon at least. And I'm sorry if I missed anybody else. The gist is, do we only get to throw tortillas twice a game now? Because you're going to get 2 warnings, according to the league, before some penalty. They want to know, how serious is this new rule? Are the tortilla police back?
Yeah, I feel like you're being picked on here. I don't know who else this would be aimed at. I don't know if this was because of the Colorado game, which is what my suspicions are, and that it kind of, I don't know. It became more public in that game, and it was as over the top in that game as I have ever seen. I mean, I took a picture on the sideline when it was happening, like the middle of the game, and I was like, there's 3 or 4 dozen of them just by my feet alone. So I'd never seen that many thrown. It just became it was big noon kickoff, like in that deal, and then it just spilled over into the stadium. So I think the city of Lubbock may have been sold out that particular weekend or day. I think they're saying kickoff, go for it, allowed, no problem, and then I guess you can. And I don't know if that means second half kickoff too, but I don't know if you're going to get. I don't know how police this will be. What concerns me is, though, it's like, you already know where I'm going with this. What concerns me is that you've now told everybody don't do this, and what is the Tech fan going to do with that?
Of course.
Oh, really?
Don't push the red button.
Exactly. Like, so let's just find out how big a boy this official is to see if he's thinks he can get out of this town alive.
Hey, everybody, remember Tony Bradford's on patrol now, and we've already seen him carry one man out of an arena.
I did, and I actually saw Tony recently as well. I said, Mayor. He was like, "No, man, I'm retired." I was like, "No, you're just you're off duty right now." I guess. So, yeah, I don't know what else to really offer up. I'll be interested to see how the Tech faithful handles that. But I mean, again, they're not saying you can't do it. They're just saying don't do it past opening kickoff. And I don't know if the second half kickoff is allowed too. I don't know, but I guess we'll see. And I know that some people do throw them when you score or after when you kick off after a touchdown or whatever. I've not noticed that too much gets onto the field after that. And I guess the Colorado game, there was some. Now I will say that Colorado added to this because they were kind of like, yeah, keep throwing them. They were kind of egging it on. So anyway, I don't know where we go, because we also have this don't brandish the firearm, and mimic that. I still think you can do guns up. You just can't mimic pulling it out and like you're whatever.
Yeah, they should have been a little more specific, I think. They don't want you to mimic murder, which is apparently something that is difficult for the youth of America to resist. I don't know if it's specifically athletes or there seems to be a real problem with wanting to impersonate homicide or acts of homicide.
I
So
blame
I don't
video
know what
games.
type of reward is there for those who do, but let's just go ahead and knock that out. The league office or anybody else who's putting that forth should just say, let's not imitate acts of murder. And I feel like that would really single it out. Guns up, probably still going to be pretty safe. And I would say for the most part, let's also just tell the officials tortillas are cool. Anything else, go ahead and blow your little whistle there or whatever you want to do, I guess. Pretty easy to differentiate between those. We've been through this policing process before. I feel like there was a time where it sort of went away, and then there was a time where it really came back. And then, of course, we've seen some heavier days than not. So I don't know what to expect. Still going to throw them. Probably going to collect a 15-yarder here or there, I imagine. Who knows what this Texas Tech football season will hold. But the odds are, I think, on some of those things coming to fruition. Tortillas in the air, and yes, at some point the ref blowing his little whistle. Can't do that. Here's 15 yards for you. Let's just hope it's in the midst of a blowout in favor of Texas Tech. All right, thank you all for asking about that one. Let's see here. This question, couple weighing in on the QB room at large, Chris, wanting to talk not only Will Hammond, but really the future, I guess, at large beyond the Baron Morton era. Asking about progress through camp that you're familiar with as far as Will Hammond specifically right now, but also, again, what this room looks like to the program in general. We had Dustin and Ryan both asking about this. So can you kind of give us an answer on how you feel like Hammond's progress has been coming along, and really what does the conversation look like whenever we move on from the Baron Morton era?
Yeah, I mean, I think Will Hammond is clearly next in line. I tell you what has been really positive development, really since he's been here, is Mitch Griffiths. Look, Mitch is not somebody that I don't think anybody would say, oh, he's going to start or he's pushing to start. However, I think he's made everybody around him better. He's very mature. I actually think that you'd be more than okay with him in the game. I don't know what it would look like if it's like, okay, he's your starter and like what a whole season outlook. But I think that thankfully you're not going to have to trot out. You're not have to go with the Jake Strong route and toss an 18-year-old kid playing his first game in a conference game, scenario out there. It doesn't appear. And, Mitch just recently got an extra year of eligibility, so he'll be here next year. I think he'll be great for Will next year. Just pushing him and mentoring and just being this mature. And Will is all of those things. He's very mature and all that, but this is very clearly Barron's job. I don't know if that's what but I think Will has progressed, and I think the reps in the spring have been good, and I think you're going to be okay if Barron were to have to miss time more so than in other years.
I think that was the aspect really more, Chris, like not about competition right now, but do we feel confident Hammond could go win a Big 12 football game? And in general, the QB room at large, like our stockpile currently.
Yeah,
good about it. Are there big holes to fill?
I think it's staggered. I think you're in really good shape. I mean, Lloyd Jones is coming off of a knee injury. He was your Chubb is his nickname. It's what everybody calls him. He's coming off of a knee injury, but he's practicing, and I don't know if he's totally 100% cleared. Like, okay, yeah, you go out there and play in a game and all that yet, but he's practicing and all those things, and I think it's kind of staggered. And then you've got Stephen Cannon committed to you. You're already talking about the Bryant kid from East Texas that you're in on. It's you in Texas, it sure seems like. So yeah, you seem to have it staggered, and Will's got many years left to play here. I mean, he could theoretically be obviously a multi-year starter and all those things. So, but I thought that it kind of slipped under the radar. But I thought the Mitch Griffiths, getting an extra year was a nice surprise because see, he's a guy. The thing I like about him is that he's truly doing this for the love. He's not really getting paid much here. He loves where he's at. He's extremely mature, very serious about. I did a radio interview over the summertime with a couple of guys. It was a national radio station or national deal with Sirius, I think, and one of the guys that was on the show was EJ Manuel, and EJ Manuel is a former starting quarterback at Florida State. He does some, analyst work for TV, and he does some radio stuff. And he made it very clear to me to ask about Mitch and how he was doing. He said, next time you see Mitch Griffiths, you tell him I said hello, man. Us ACC guys have to stick together. It was kind of a joke. But I thought this was a partial for 1 year starter at Wake that 1 year, and he made an impression on EJ. And I think EJ called on TV a couple of games for them that year. And so I'm not trying to take the Will Hammond question and totally major in the Mitch Griffiths part, but that's really been the biggest development in the camp so far, I think, is that, hey, you got some really good options, plural. Whereas I think when you're playing that bowl game last year, you're like, it's hopefully you get Barron back and Will's going to be the deal. And then after that, just a bunch of question marks. And now I think that, you feel like you've got a full room. You've got your developmental guys. You've got your guys that could actually play in games. You've got your the next heir, that's ready to fill in for Barron, which would be Will Hammond. And so, you're in a pretty good spot there.
All right. Thank you for that question. This question from Wayne and Thomas asking about Micah Hudson. Thomas saying, in part, could Micah Hudson be dominating in practice and we would never know because they're just going to downplay it no matter what? Wayne is saying, why are we not talking, or they not talking more about Micah Hudson? Hardly at all. Is he that far behind everyone else, or is it on purpose to keep him that secret hidden jewel? How about the hush-hush around Hudson right now?
I think, I think it's funny because I think Juice Johnson did a media availability about 2-3 days ago, and he wasn't really asked a lot about Micah specifically, and it's kind of under the radar still. Even when you got, hey man, here's a receivers coach, ask away, and nobody really offered up anything. And I think there's a couple of things. I think Micah's done just fine. I think he will contribute. I think that you have clear-cut starters. He's not one of those, but I think he's going to factor in and he can help you. I think that there is some intentionality to the under the radar aspect, trying to not put too much pressure on him and all the things. And then the third component that I would offer up.
First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For only 24 hours, FanDuel is going to be giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP or eyeing a long shot division winner or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment with FanDuel Futures Day, August 26th. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. August 26th with FanDuel. Play your game.
And the third component that I would offer up, I think there are people that would absolutely tell you they hit on that class of receivers that are freshmen right now. Like, they are extremely upbeat and excited about that group in its entirety. Stone, Deaver, Jones, and Gentry. And I don't know if I've left anybody out there, but that group that is all true freshmen, there's a lot of fun to be had there in the coming years. And, and then you have obviously the West and the Morgan and the Turner and all those kinds of guys that are a bit older that have been around. So there's a lot of optimism about that group, but that's part of why I think, one, it's intentional, but I think Micah's a second string guy right now. I think he's getting plenty of reps. I mean, he caught a touchdown pass last scrimmage. Joey said it in his media availability, and so did Leighton Stone. And I remember Joey intentionally mentioning Tristan Gentry, who came from Stephenville. So yeah, you're catching a touchdown pass in one of the only couple of scrimmages in fall camp. I mean, that's worth something, isn't it? So he's doing just fine. But I think there is some intentionality to kind of keeping him under the radar too.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you for that question. This one from Drew, who is asking if we could bring back one former Tech football legend to play for this year's team. Who would it be? I've got an eternal answer, and I feel like it actually fits this year.
I love these questions because any given year, the answer can change based on what the team may need or what you'd like to sprinkle in a little more of. I mean, because like I guess I'll let you go first because you're saying, hey man, it doesn't matter what year it is. This guy,
I think so, pretty much. But I actually think he slots in nicely this year. I'm going for a Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, Dwayne Slay,
the nightmare that runs through the head of Allen Average. Whenever something does run through the head of Allen Average, I'm going Dwayne Slay. Always.
I don't have a problem with that. I think
it's just so much fun, Chris.
Yeah. Well, and like if you want to play that game. And if I'm looking for, if I want to like guarantee myself, okay, like if I have a question here, any kind, like what I can just trump it with like I can play the trump card and like say, here's the ace of spades, man, and like I'm locking this spot up like with a guarantee, because you can go I mean, we don't know about Caleb and Reggie, so you could play the Crabtree card.
Thought about it.
We don't know if Barron can take you. You could play the Harold card. For this particular team, I may play like the Louis Vasquez at offensive tackle card. Like I think if you paired up somebody like Louis and and Howard and like you are cooking with gas because then you go from like, man, you could be a pretty good upgrade on the offensive line and you got that really stud left tackle, but then you could just have. You could have like what Utah has. Like, okay, not only do you have an elite defensive line, you could have two of the best offensive tackles in the country or a pair of or something like that. So I thought about that. I thought about somebody like Keontae Dawson, which I think is a very versatile, like hybrid type player. I mean, you could play the Tyree Wilson card, but I if push come to shove for this particular team, I'd probably give you like a Louis Vasquez answer or LaRaven Clark. I mean, pick your
yeah. I'm surprised you didn't give me one from this category. What if since we're in the card analogy section, what if I gave you a Trey Wolf card or a Jonathan Garibay?
Yeah, I think I'd get greedy there. I'd rather just like I'm going to take my chances with the kickers, and I'll tell you too. I'm not so sure that it's not going to be a similar situation to last year where like Upton and Stone aren't like kind of both getting some kicks in these first games,
yeah,
like last year. So, but because I mean Trey was I think Trey's been in a couple of practices recently, but Trey was phenomenal one year, but then one year he was not. So maybe I have that in the back of my
he like lost the job and then came back to the legend
and then won it and it was phenomenal. Yeah, and he's just great guy. But I think I'd go with the elite big person. And like it's not a knock on Zambrano or Ponton or any options you have right now. I just would say, you know what? I'm going to end any speculation. I'm bringing back one of the all-time greats. He played in a lot of Super Bowls. He's a grown man. He's no drama. I saw Louis in a Dick's Sporting Goods in San Antonio about 2 years ago, and he's got some ink. And he I mean, I was like, man, can I just like put you in the back of my car and drive you back up to Lubbock and we talk to a counselor and figure out some more eligibility stuff? I know you already got the NFL all these years in you, but I'd like a rerun this deal.
Sure. Anybody out there that maybe is
interested? Yes. I liked your answer though too. I like the Slay one. And what's interesting is like I think Wisniewski is very similar to Slay. I think if you ask a lot of these players, they'll tell you that Wisniewski is one of the hardest hitters on the teams. I mean, or on the team. He's built like Dwayne was in that he's much bigger than you and him. He's 6'4", 220. I mean, there's guys that have played tight end or edge rusher. This is a safety for you. But it's hard to turn away, one of the, defensive player of the year type guys.
Just easily on the short list of most fun I've had watching a Red Raider.
Oh yeah. Ever. Just destroy people. Yeah. Just destroy people.
Something you're going to see something you probably hadn't quite seen before every time he was on the field. I still remember the Cotton Bowl. He sent the guy from Alabama to the wrong sideline. I mean,
Yeah.
that was kind of an overlooked collision, I think, because of so many other reasons, but sent a guy to the wrong sideline at one point. So it was just week after week after week after week. You guys let us know in the YouTube comments or fire us a text if you're in the mob and let us know what your answer would be.
You know who else would be really good? And like because I think that you would pair this particular player with like a Wisniewski or a Slay. But like speaking of the guy coaching corners right now, I mean, you could do a lot worse than bringing Darcel McBath back to the secondary in his prime. That was a damn good football player there. So that would be one less question on the back end of your secondary that you would bring back an NFL player without a doubt.
Let me give you another name I'll just take every year for eternity, I guess. And maybe he fits in trying to add some security to a receiving core, but it's also just the perfect segue to our next question. First, today's episode brought to you by Wayfair. And as summer is winding down, there's something nice about getting back into a routine you love, and Wayfair makes it easy to set yourself up for the season ahead. From bedding and linens to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair is your one-stop shop to refresh your home. So convenient to find exactly what you need all in one place and at a price that fits any budget. Plus, the delivery is fast and free, even for something big. It's the perfect time to get your home just right, whether organizing, upgrading, or simplifying, and Wayfair has got you covered on all fronts. Get organized, refreshed, and back to the routine for way less. Just head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Let me give you another name I'll just take every year for eternity, I guess. And maybe he fits in trying to add some security to a receiving core, but it's also just the perfect segue to our next question. One, Wes Welker. But maybe not so much because of the pass catching standpoint, but the return game talents. Coleman is asking Chris about returners going into this year. He says, I haven't heard a whole lot about the returners, just bits here or there. Have we finally decided it's not worth bringing the ball out of the end zone to get tackled at the 15? Okay, that's one thing to consider. But how about some names that are going to factor in here? Chris, do we have a feel for that yet?
And I think you could see, speaking of Micah, I think he could be involved in some aspects here. I think this is Jacoby Williams' jobs, plural. Like, I don't know. I know Kenny would tell you they want to be more explosive on the kickoff returns. Didn't feel like, I think they felt like 2 years ago. I mean, and again, Dre McCray was phenomenal at it. I mean, there was how many 50-plus yard returns did he have 2 years ago? And then last year there was some of those to where you just flip the field and all that. And I think they're trying to find that kind of guy. But I think Mike and Jacoby would be two pretty good candidates there. I think Cam Dickey could be like the off returner. But I just, until they change their mind, I think Kenny's going to be a bring the ball out guy. He wants to use his depth, and like test another team's depth. And if you got some juice back there that you trust, the punt returner is the tricky one because I think they used Coy, kind of majored in that last year, and they tried some other people, but kind of Coy I think got the most opportunities there because you are most worried about fielding it, and it's like why don't we do this or that with the punt return? Well, that's what made Wes so good is that not only would he field it, but he'd make the first guy miss, and then away we go.
Yeah.
I think it's the hardest thing in a football uniform is to field a punt, and maybe even more so in Lubbock, Texas. Wind swirling, your chin is up, you got 11 dudes that are about to smoke you, and it's just not a skill that everybody's just totally natural with. If they've got all kinds of other skills, that's a different one, And do I field it on a bounce? Do I run up? When do I fair catch it? Do I not bat? I mean, there's a lot going on there in a kid's mind. The wind's causing that ball to swirl on occasion. You got people, and you can't see a darn thing. So I think that's what they were working with Jacoby on, at least in the summertime, is like, let's field it first. We know you got some juice. We know you can make some things happen. And he was like, I'm getting better at it. But he would admittedly said, he's like, it's one of the harder things I've ever done. And whereas Coy would field it 100% of the time for the most part, but you may not get a lot after that. So it's like it's kind of this gamble that you're playing in your mind. Okay, what's most important. But no muffs, man. No muffs. So
yeah, why don't you just run it back for a touchdown? That seems easy enough.
yeah.
To the tune of once upon a time, the NCAA's all-time punt return touchdown leader, being in a Red Raider uniform. Looked plenty easy then. I don't know what the problem is now. All right, thank you for that question. This one from Peter. Is there anything significant to the reports being availability and not injury reports? And do we actually know what consequences there are if you're not obliging by it?
Yeah, I think there's some internal frustration in the way that they're doing this, that because like the football part, and from what I understand, so there's some, these are Big 12 games only. This isn't going to apply to everybody in these non-conference games. So remember that, file that away, that Tech is still going to do it on a Monday. I don't know how much they'll change. They may send out releases or send it through the Big 12, and the Big 12 will send it out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But that's been a lot of the discussion internally is, okay, they're doing this, but why are they doing it on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Like by that time, everybody's kind of, I don't know. So I think there was a lot of thought, man, just do it on a Monday and be done with it or whatever, kind of like Tech was doing it. I think they're very careful to call it availability, because this also involves maybe a player that is suspended or whatever. So that's why it's not an injury report, because I think this is a broader scope of what you're supposed to indicate to, now, and then you get into, like how will it be policed? Because like I remember there's a good example as relates to starting quarterbacks last season, and I'll give you two Big 12 coaches that handled it completely different. We know there's way too much paranoia. We know it's almost silly at this point. Kenny Dillingham, before one of those big games, and Sam Levitt, he was like, yeah, he's not going to go this week. Just kind of spilled it. And his rationale was, I want to instill confidence into our team and into the player that we're going to toss out there, and like, let's just move on. Like we're not going to do, let's see who trots out there first. Whereas like Kyle Whittingham, similar last names, but Kyle Whittingham, the head coach of Utah, like Cam Rising hardly played last year, and yet every single week he was like day to day, I may see him, and they played that game for 3 months. Dumbest thing ever. And there were Utah media and fans going, he's not playing. Why they continue to say this, we have no idea. But I guess any doubt you could put in an opponent's mind, but it really helped you. It really helped Utah last year to kind of create some doubt. I mean,
I like the Dillingham perspective. I really hadn't considered that, but it does kind of, I guess, slight the guy's mindset if you're just trying to cover up the fact that he's playing, as some like advantage to you. I guess I get why coaches do it, but that's an interesting perspective to consider.
Yeah. So, but what can be done on policing this? That's a great question. I'm not real sure. I don't know what the because NFL, man, it's pretty strict. Like, and if you, I mean, you'll get fined or individually, or the team will, and so they abide by it. There's not really any secrets, and it's a gambling component. It's a let's just show your cards component, but somebody will test this. I don't know who or how much, but it'll be interesting. Joey won't. I mean, he's just transparent, and I think, which is very refreshing. But somebody will try to, some paranoid individual will try to play semantics with this thing. Well, we suspended him on Friday after our report was sent out. So sorry. I mean, and how do you prove that? Or
we didn't reach our conclusions until Friday night.
Yeah, exactly. Or he really came down with a migraine on Friday night after that last report came down. So he's out. And
I dare you to tell somebody that says they have a migraine. No, you don't. Dare you to do that. Ooh, risky venture there, boys. Okay, let's see this question here. A couple more. Ryan asks, would Cody Campbell and John Sellers make today's roster?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
I hope so.
Yeah, Cody would have been involved in the offensive line. And John would have been a rotational defensive guy, special teams guy, and all that stuff. I mean, those were Canyon boys that just loved it. And then Cody played in the NFL. I mean, he was a Colt, I mean, so he was. I mean, yeah, he would have been in line to either start or be battling for it or anything right now. But absolutely.
Glenn asks, if you could only choose one, would you rather have an elite offensive line or defensive line? Elite.
Yeah. I've heard this. I've actually asked Coach Leach about this question before. I've asked Cliff about this before. It's a bit biased because they're offensive guys. But if it's one of those, because like I think there was a great example of what the Eagles just did last year, where they were just so dominant up front that they won a championship with it. They had other things too, but if you could pick it and build your team around and have the choice, because I wonder if this question is being asked because there's a lot of people feeling like that they can use that word, which is a bit tricky because we haven't seen it yet. But like if you're kind of trending that way with your defensive line, based on our universal praise conversation that we had, I think I may pick offensive line. Is that bad?
No, it's just wrong, but it doesn't make you a bad person, Chris.
Here's the way why I would answer that way. I think that you can do anything you want in a football game if your offensive line is dominant. You can run it. You can work the clock. You can protect. Your quarterback's going to stay healthy. You can like own the game. And I know a lot of that is good. You know, if a defensive line is dominant, to me, I always feel like the offensive line, when you compare it, it's like a good pitcher. You know, like I'm dictating to you, and like I always feel like the defense is getting dictated to, and so like I just think good pitching beats good hitting. That's the way I would view that if forced to pick. However,
that's funny because in that situation you're choosing the defense in the baseball analogy.
True, but I guess just the way the offensive line can kind of dictate terms.
Yeah.
And you're having to react if you're the defensive guy, which would be the hitter in that instance. But I get what you're saying. Either way, you have a dominant either one of them. I think you're in really good shape because there is no other. And I would put both of those ahead of quarterback. You could take a great quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback, an elite quarterback, and put him in with an average to less than average offensive line, and you're going to feel sorry for that quarterback because he just can't do what he's so good at. But it's 1 and 1A on those two positions. I was just, I guess, arguing for the offensive line in that instance, but it's hard to say that defensive line is not, because you can dominate a football game this way. They're just wrecking shop. If you're overwhelming the offensive line, doesn't matter what scheme you're running, it's just like they can't do anything. That they're just like running through you, and there's no time, and they're just like wrecking everything you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think I'm always just going to be biased toward the defense in any sport. I'm always going to bet on good defense beating good offense. I can recall examples from a football standpoint of teams winning championships with great defenses and very modest to lackluster offenses. I don't really recall, and I could just be missing one, a great offense that only had a modest to lackluster defense that was winning a title. Trying to think, like the St. Louis Rams, how good was their defense? I don't know. I'd really have to go back and look at a lot of numbers.
Aaron Donald.
Well, no, I'm even thinking about the Greatest Show on Turf, because they had that amazing offense.
I got you.
So I'm trying to remember some of those guys they had there, but obviously you've got like the Ravens or Buccaneers examples of where the offense is like, damn, can they get a field goal up so they can win the game 3-0?
Right.
And they won Super Bowls. So I'm just always going to bet on quality defense, I think, to beat quality offense, no matter the sport, really. Somebody can tell me in what ways I'm wrong in the YouTube comments, or shoot us a text if you are a Matador Mobster. Thank you for –
And let's just hope you have an elite one of those this year, because if you do, I mean, and I'm truly elite, like dominant, that can win you a game or is heavily impacting every game that they're involved in. I think you're gonna like where this thing could go this year.
If you hadn't gotten something special going in either one of those groups, you're going nowhere. Maybe in a bowl game, you may be 6-6, 7-5, whatever, but competing for hardware without one of those groups at least really being special, I don't see it happening. Thank you for that question. Next question is from Brett. He's asking, since the commitment, any feel for the reclassification of 5-star LaDamian Guyton. But to hear that answer, you'll need to be a Matador Mob insider. So hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris in a month. So you can get the full Mailbag experience next week. Hope everybody has a great weekend. This is where we'll venture on to the OT period. Chris, thank you for your regulation time. Let's get to the extra.
You got it. OT is here. Press that red button. Is that what they do at Buffalo Wild Wings? Either way, but yeah. Yeah. Thank you for subscribing to what we're doing. And also, before we go to the OT part, I want to say hello to Mr. Campbell, Cody's dad. I know we just talked about him in this press conference. Saw him recently. He said that he loves looking at Cowan, but gets sick of looking at my ugly mug on his phone or whatever, however he consumes his
Understandable.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, known Cody's dad for a long time. And then I ran into a one Coach Pierce who used to he had one Casey Cowan under his tutelage back in Levelland High School, and he said, boy, Cowan was quite the handful in the old classroom. So anyway, Coach Pierce, thank you for being a good man, sir. You survived it, and so did Cowan, apparently.
I think they're going to be mad because I think you just said Levelland, Littlefield High School. But
oh, jeez. That's where
shout out to Coach Pierce.
Yes.
I taught him everything he knows, and that's why all these years later, he is no longer in coaching.
You ran him out.
For it, at least.
Yes.
All right. Appreciate you guys for being
Littlefield.
Wherever you may be, get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks for making us a part of your day. And again, hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial if you're interested in becoming a Matador Mobster. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.